Good morning, everyone. We'll begin with the auspicious name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please, discussion.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
My name is Hina Siddiqui, and I, along with my colleagues, Mr. Mohammed Rakibul Hassan from OIC Comstech and Dr. Nadeem Ahmed Khan from Silent ICCPS, welcome you all in this mini course entitled Philosophy of Science, which is jointly organized by ICCPS, OIC Comstech and Silent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this course is aimed to provide participants with deeper understanding of foundation, method, implication of scientific knowledge, including theory, development, observation, experiments, and relationship between science, society, and ethics. But we are very unfortunate to present such an eminent scientist with us as our resource person for this course, whom I have been requesting since last 6 months to conduct this course. So he is the treasure of the knowledge, and to introduce us with today's speaker, I request Director ICCPS Professor Dr. Mohammed Rashad to come.
Respected teacher, teacher of the teachers, Professor Dr. Irfan Chaudhary, and thank you so much, Dr. Hina. Again, she managed to just capture him, because it's very difficult to just capture him and get time from him, because he is so much busy in so many important projects of Muslim Ummah. So this is indeed a blessing, and we are so fortunate to have a teacher with us. And you know that I always learn something new from. So I met a few personality in my life, and he is one of them. That whenever I met him, I learned something new, and I always find a solution for a problem after discussing with him. So that's the blessing when you are having someone who just give you a solution of a problem. That is something, a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are blessed, especially myself. I I consider myself as the most fortunate person on this earth. I have the blessing of having guidance from Professor Abha Chaudhary and Professor Tavraman as well. So these are the blessings because you know that the ICCBS, this just is a unique center. But it's not unique in the sense that we have equipment and infrastructure and something like that. Because we have unique personality in the past. It was a vision right from the beginning of Professor Srinivasana Siddiqui, who just led the foundation of this center, and then Professor Tavraman, and then for more than 3 decades, Professor they just contributed to the development. This center, they work hard with dedication and purpose. So you just visit each institution of this center, you will find a mission, you will find a purpose. These are buildings are purpose built, and there is a core mission. And you know that he just delivered a series of lecture on NMR spectroscopy, and then now again the philosophy of science. So these are the courses which he liked more, and we like to listen to. Because, and that's the reason that if you have someone who like the topic, and if you have someone who like to listen you, so then everything become easier and more interesting. Today world is the world of science and technology, and being a Muslim, we badly need development in science and technology. And this is, we have never felt so much the need in our history that we are feeling now today after the war in Gaza and Iran, because that's where we are lagging. We should realize that we have not spent on science and technology. We have spent most of the time on luxurious items. We have just built beautiful, one of the world tallest buildings and most beautiful buildings in the world, unique museums, and but this the nation cannot just progress, and the nation cannot reach to the height with these. The nations and the Muslim Ummah, they can just challenge the West or the Israel and the enemy of the Muslim Ummah by just concentrating on science and technology. And that's where we will be today listening what is the philosophy of the science. And that's where being a Muslims and the Ummah badly need. With this, I will not take more time. Thank you so much, sir, again for just sparing your time. And I know that it's very difficult for you to manage, but this is your baby and this is your center. We are just here to take care of it. But just thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Ellen, there are about 600 or 800, something like this, of enrollment. I'm sure that there are many different time zones which are attending this discussion. I'll tell you what is the difference between discussion, debate, and dialect. This is truly a discussion. It is more of what I understand. And I want to start with a fundamental disclaimer. Philosophy has never been my subject, right? And have never learned philosophy formally. There was not a single course which in my entire education period, that was about philosophy. So my understanding of philosophy is as good or as bad as you. Okay. The only difference would be that I will be able to engage you in a discussion. So that is the reason we want to start this course. And as Raza mentioned that see, for everything there is a purpose behind. And behind this course, there is a purpose to make you think of what is science. Are you really doing a science or just a pseudoscience or non-science? Are the interpretation of the results which you eventually develop as a theory or as a conclusion are good enough to be called as credible? The science which you are trying to conduct make any sense, to be honest? And what you discover, do you have any control on its use? Ethical dimension. So make you think of why when people discover how to split atom, they had no control of where it will be used in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, right? When long time ago in England, Watson Crick was discovering genetic engineering, he has never thought that it would at some point of time would have use of, which is just beyond imagination, such as biological weapons or creating superhuman beings. Or computer science, AI, artificial intelligence, you scientists discovered and developed artificial intelligence, but do you have any control on its use? It is used for hunting people, right? In different regions of the world. So there are ethical dimensions of it. And this is exactly what we need to engage in this discussion. But see, before we indulge into philosophy of science, we need to know what is philosophy. Fundamental basic question. Why do we need to learn philosophy in order to understand philosophy of science? And that is from where I would like to start. So what had happened was that this is a selection of phenomena, so I have absolutely nothing to do with it. But you can see that there are two parts of it. And then you see someone all around computers and test tubes and brains and biological samples and cosmology and atoms and all that. On the other side, there is someone who's with a book and perhaps many books. And this is the fundamental difference between a philosopher and scientists. Philosophers build their reality around argument, reasoning, logic, discussions, dialect. Scientists, you scientists, believe on empirical evidences, empirism. You want to test your hypothesis by experiment. You want to draw theory. You believe on empirical evidence. And that is the fundamental difference between the scientist and philosopher. But that doesn't really mean that there are two discrete families of scholars. So what I would do is that I'll discuss philosophy very briefly, and then perhaps the key topics in philosophy. Philosophical method, as I discussed, they're quite distinct and different, but at some point of time they merge with science. And then, of course, at some point of time, we'll discuss about the greatest philosophers of all time and branches of philosophy. Some people claim that science is a branch of philosophy. Some people said this is a baby of philosophy who has decided to diverge and go away from philosophy. So some, so that diversion of opinion. And what are the differences and diversions of philosophy and science? Where they meet? Why you need philosophy to be a good scientist? Basic thing. You are good already, You are publishing papers, you're writing your thesis, and as a scientist, you're doing reasonably well. But perhaps some understanding of philosophy can make you even a better scientist, right? Because by philosophy, we learn logical, systemic reasoning and thinking. And that makes you a better scientist, a better scholar, a better doctor, even a better father, or whatever. Everything would be better if you know a bit of philosophical method and how philosophy helps science, still helping, and the key methods in philosophy of science. And then, of course, we'll see some examples. So let's indulge into a discussion. What is philosophy? Philosophy, you use philosophy in many words. You often say, this is my philosophy. I believe on this philosophy. But I'm not really sure whether you're talking about a real philosophy or just an opinion, which you call as my philosophy. My philosophy is to have Nihari every Saturday or something like this. Or my philosophy is that, I like to walk with that. Now, you see, philosophy is primarily a combination of two Greek words, philosophia. Philo means love. Nucleophiles and electrophiles and all that, philo is love. You know that. And most of these words which we use in chemistry are actually Greek words. And that also indicates to you that somehow, this chemistry was born from Greek philosophy. Your degree is Doctor of Philosophy. Get Master of Philosophy. Never learn philosophy. There is no single mention of philosophy in your thesis. But you're still a PhD. Philosopher, you get philosophy. So somewhere, every branch of science was born from philosophy. I mean, at least that a lot of people claim about it. So love of wisdom, it is the search of knowledge, truth. And the fundamental difference between animals and thinking animals is the search of knowledge. Biologically, we are all animals. Right? There is no difference in terms of biology. We are all animals. The difference between us and so-called animals, that they are on survival mode. They're looking for immediate survival. But we, thinking animal, we have this curiosity. Okay. We have capacity to think and reason. And then we have the capacity to communicate. It's very sophisticated communication. That makes us a different from biological animal. We have never seen a chimpanzee discussing about what is the purpose of life, right? And why, clouds and rains and what is their nature. This is not, and what is morality? Do we really have a justice system in chimpanzee tribe, right? Or we appoint someone as our governor, a good governor, or that we have a democracy, that we should vote who will get the bunch of banana next door. You don't find that. So this is the discrete and fundamental attributes that we've been gifted to us. And this is curiosity, reasoning, and logical thinking, which is called critical thinking. And then communication. We can communicate, we can make stories, we can falsify, we can deceive, or we can tell truth. We can all do that because we have this tremendous capacity. No animal in the world has such a deception capacity as human being. Human being can deceive from facial expressions to the words. This deception is just unique property of human being. And they can logically think and search for truth as well. So there are good side and bad side. But what is wrong and what is right? Your wrong can be my right. What you consider as beauty, I may find it not that attractive. So everything is so subjective. Thinking is the fundamental property of human being. So philosophy, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is love, study, and pursuit of wisdom, truth, and knowledge. And this is exactly what you're trying to do in science as well, in a different way, right? Scientists philosophers sit together, they reason, they discuss, they argument, they provide reasonings and logic. They question the acquired knowledge, they refine the acquired knowledge, and they come close to the truth. No philosopher has ever claimed to find the truth. They only say that we are searching for truth. While scientists are just overconfident, they always find this is what we find and this is absolute truth. And here, philosophy question it because scientific theory is often found wrong, right? So philosophy keeps testing you as your science evolves. Now, unfortunately, it's very rare that we love, study, or pursue wisdom, truth, and knowledge. And there has been philosophers all the way through. You don't need to call yourself a philosopher. If you think rationally, if you have the capacity to reason and to develop logic, if you can find some reality in the existence, you are a philosopher. You can be a doctor, you can be a professor, you can be a rich man, a poor man, whatever. Your capacity to think and to find truth and go towards that is make you what philosophers do in their profession. So there has been an ancient philosophy long time ago, like Confucius or Buddha or Thales, or medieval philosophy in which we found Kant and Kuhn and Hegel, and others, postmodern philosophy in which we find Karl Popper and others. Modern philosophy, there are plenty of different types of philosophy. There is not even a single definition on which everybody agrees. So it's just the subject is interestingly diverse and interestingly, but inherently, this discipline is unbounded, spreading, right? Because the thinking is spreading. Philosophy, in general, study of general and fundamental problems, such as connected with reality. What is reality? What is existence? Do we really exist? Or is this an illusion? I mean, I see Raza and Raza see me. I don't know, it's just a fundamental illusion, and the reality doesn't really exist somewhere. So, exist in knowledge. What do we know? Is this a knowledge or opinion or a belief? There's a difference, you know. So, it's all testable. And what are values? Your values can be different from my values, right? I don't consider drinking alcohol as the right virtue. In different societies, it's a normal social structure, right? So values, what are real values, you know? So, and reason. How do we reason? Systematically thinking. What is mind? What is language? There are so many of these fundamental problems. And I'll tell you about the questions which philosophy tried to answer. Philosophy is different from other ways of addressing such problems. Because philosophy is based on critical, systematic approach and reliance on rational argument. Why do you think that Egypt is the best country in the world?
Because I'm from
And if you're from Egypt, then what makes you think that only belonging to Egypt make Egypt the best country in the world?
because of history. I get about history.
And what is the history of Egypt, which is different from the rest of the world?
They teach the world how to write and how to be a principal.
And just only making writing and reading make any nation great.
Yeah, for sure.
How can be you so sure about it?
So we are now learning. So teaching and learning is the first thing. So I think Egyptians taught people how to learn, how to think, how to build. So I think we are very prosperous.
Only Egyptians think that they are the best because they have bring it. Is it become a reality of the world?
No, that's why I said because I'm from Egypt, so I belong to this area.
So it means that only belonging to Egypt or Sudan or Cameroon or Pakistan can make that nation great.
In my opinion, yes.
What do you think your opinion is correct?
Maybe we can ask another people so we can learn.
Okay.
from them.
So this is exactly what philosophy is. You know, every time I ask him a question, he went down deeper and deeper and deeper to his answer. This is philosophical dialogue. Understand? Questions are more important in philosophy than answers. In science, answers are more important than questions. I keep asking him because every answer he gave me, I took out a question out of it. Right? Every answer he gave me, my question was based on his answer. For me, question is more important. Answer doesn't matter because, you know, how good I can question, then I'll be able to get more knowledge. I make him think and I make myself think. While scientists are interested in answers, fundamental difference. But how do you know that the answer you're getting out of a scientific experiment is the correct answer? There are so many theories in the world which people claim to be exceptional and true, prove to be wrong. Right? So philosophy helps you to understand the scientific values in their world. And then this is so-called wheel diagram. You know, how do you search for knowledge? What is your method of searching? Classically, there are 4 or 5 different methods. For instance, the oldest method for knowledge was religion. Because our priest has told us that he communicated with the God. Therefore, it is truth. It's called belief. Belief or dogmatic. You know dogma, central dogma in science? DNA, RNA. Similarly, beliefs are dogmatic. Dogmatic means you can't question. You don't question, you just believe it. They're not necessarily true. Right? So this was one oldest method of knowledge was religion. For instance, I'll tell you that 12,000 years ago, so-called Neolithic period, when people developed the method of cultivation, when they domesticized animals in Asia Minor, it's called Fertile Crescent, between Egypt all the way to Macedonia and Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, all the way to Turkey. It's called Fertile Crescent. Here, the agriculture was developed. They started settling there. Before that, they were hunter and gatherer. They didn't really need any of this, right? But when they start settling into different places, then sessions started. Some people do agriculture, some make tools, some help in cutting, some help in making bread, some help in developing storage, some help in taking care of animals. Professions developed. Among them, there was an interesting profession developed, which is called religion. Because, when people settled in these fertile crescent, there were naturally disasters, there were naturally calamities, when there were naturally, heavy rains and storms and earthquakes, and that used to destroy their harvest. And they used to kill their animals, animals get sick, they die or something like this. All of a sudden, somebody came and said, there's a problem. This happens because your virtues are not good. You're not really giving sacrifice to the God. I just communicated, I just came back from meeting with God, and he said, listen, these people are not good, they have to change their virtues, they have to provide some money to you because you are a communicator. Religion started from that point of view. And same governance and governance and whatever. So remember, religion was the first thing which was invented, quote unquote, by ancient civilizations, and that was their way of search for knowledge. Philosophy came about 4,000 years ago. Roughly about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, Confucius was born 800 years BC before the Christ. Thales was born about 640 BC in Turkey. And then Socrates was born about 360 BC in Greece, and then Plato and all that. Philosophy was based on reasoning, logic, and argumentation. And there was a problem, there was a fundamental basic problem. In Greek mythology, where most of the religion were born, there were 12 major gods. And these gods were fighting with each other. God of love, God of war, God of money, God of beauty, God of, let's name it. They were fighting with each other. And philosophers were the first one who said, can it be different? Can, what the religion explained to us, can we go a bit differently? Can we start inquiry and responses to the questions we always have in our mind by reasoning, by dialect, by discussion, by argumentation. This was the second thing. And then somewhere in between there was another profession brewing, magicians, superstition, black magic, right? Okay, they said, I can change your fate in this way. You can have a male baby or whatever. I can do that by magic. So there was another way of so-called knowledge. Now, I'm not really arguing that these were the true ways of developing knowledge. I'm just telling you what are the classical ways. And then somewhere in between, popularity of belief, popularity of opinion. Why do we think that certain nations are bad by nature? Because everybody is saying it, right? Why do we think that killing of animal is not a good virtue? Because everybody believes on it. Popularity of opinion, so opinion. But somewhere in between, from philosophy, there was a birth of field which is called natural philosophy. It was not science. The word science was used only 200 years ago. No one, even today, by degree, is a scientist. You all are philosopher because you do natural philosophy. And science based on a different methodology, empirical observation, hypothesis, experiment, conclusion, and theory. How you observe something, you develop a hypothesis, you go to the laboratory or field to test that hypothesis, you get the data, results, you interpret and develop a conclusion, right? That conclusion by many people convert into a theory, and that theory become dogmatic. Everybody start believing Darwin's theory of evolution is dogmatic, right? Everybody believes on it, but there are exceptions, and then eventually this conclusion and theory changes, and then science is cyclical. So this all converge into so-called truth and knowledge. They all believe that they are trying to achieve knowledge and truth. The difference between religion and magic is fundamental. Often in religion, people believe that what they get is a truth. Magicians are the ones who know that they are just tricking people. It's false. It's not reality. So they are fundamentally flawed in a way of developing. So philosophy has emerged from a simple question. What is reality? There are human beings, plants, mountains, hills, animals, everything. What is the nature of that? Right? Why all of a sudden a person dies, his body is there, but he is not speaking, he is not moving, he is not breathing. What was there fundamentally which has gone out? What is soul? What is existence? Do we really exist? If we do exist, what is the proof we have? What is beauty? What is truth? What is the best way of of governing a society, right? What is the way we should treat different classes in society also, fundamental questions such as, do really God exist? These are one of the most enduring questions of philosophy. Such as questions of what happened to us when we die? Where do we go? And questions such as why some people are slaves by virtue of their but why other people are rich. Who define fate and destiny? These were all enduring questions. We even today ask. We don't have a methodological vigor to respond to them. So ancient philosophers were generally mostly Greek in ancient civilization, Fertile Crescent, Chinese, Persians, Indians, some Arabs, Egyptians, Buddhist scholars. So these were scholars, and among them, Socrates was one of the early Greek philosophers. He never wrote a single book. There is no recorded history of Socrates has written anything, because he was just busy all the time asking questions. He just used to walk in Athens. And when you see one or two people, or anyone, from child to adult, from a slave to ordinary person, from a rich person to a senator or aristocrat, he used to ask questions. And he keep asking questions. And keep asking questions until the people get annoyed and they leave. And he asked so many questions that eventually he was, by jury, they decided to kill him. He was given the death punishment, and he decided to have hemlock, natural product, and then he died. The punishment of asking too many questions, right? He has been the greatest philosopher of all time. Everything today is called pre-Socrates and post-Socrates. Pre-Socrates period, before the Socrates, and post-Socrates, after the Socrates. So he was one of the greatest thinkers of all the time, and he was also considered as the martyr of truth. Quote unquote, he is considered as martyr of truth because he was punished for asking questions. Francis, his question was, is this a democracy in Athens, where you don't allow slaves to vote? When ordinary people, called demos, are allowed to vote, slaves are not allowed to vote, why women are not allowed to? Why do you think that women have no soul, What make you think that women are without soul? Right? And why do you think that demos, the common people, can select a good leader? Have you ever decided the captain of a ship by voting? You don't select captain of a ship by voting. So how can you select your leader, the governor or the king, by voting? Because this is a profession. He first time said this is not a birthright. The person who governs a society is a profession also. And people who select them should have the intellectual capacity to select. And he was absolutely right. You see, if this was not the case, if this was the case that people have this intellectual capacity, if everybody was a philosopher, we'd have selected a good king or leader. You see today, most of the superpowers have stupid leaders because this is the failure of democracy. And since he was asking too many questions and too sensitive questions, which hit the aristocrats, he was punished, right? This is even happening today. But, yes, sir.
Now I have some conviction on how we can judge what this person is philosophy or not. We have
This person,
if this philosophy person, and you said Socrates, and he didn't do anything, no achievement, just thinking as question. We have okay, what about the prophets like Jesus and
absolutely. You know, this is a very wonderful question. Socrates did was not for any profit, any popularity, right? For any benefit. The only thing what he was trying to do is to satisfy himself, to get more knowledge and go closer to truth. This is exactly what philosophy means. You know, he never meant to get profit. He never wanted to be a popular. He never wanted to go into the Senate. He never wanted to be a rich person. The only thing he wanted, and he was not even interested in welfare of society and changing the world to a better place. Absolutely not. He was only interested in one thing: self-fulfillment, the joy of learning. He wanted to go closer to truth. This was only objective of him. Understood?
what about the wisdom? We think anyone
I mean, he was looking for a wisdom for himself, not for anybody else. This is true that in the process of questioning, the wisdom comes automatically. I asked him 7 questions. And I'm sure that my question has uplifted his thinking.
we know about any person that the people go to him for to get solve for their problem. They call him the wisdom or maybe the person.
Nobody came to him ever.
For example, now Dr. Rida, when he said you help him for solving for money problem, that I can't help philosophy now.
Because Socrates was never wanted to help anyone. He wanted to help himself. And this is the objective of philosophy. They are never interested of so-called changing the world. They want people to think deeply, critically, and possibly correctly. Okay, so this is the objective. And his student Plato, Socrates was a person who was wandering in the streets of Athens. Athens, at that time, Greece was a city-state. There was no single country. Every city was a different country. And it has a different system. It has a different god or goddesses or many gods and goddesses. He has never created any institution. He has never written a book. He has left no record of his intellectual pursuit. It was only Plato who spent many years with Socrates, walking around him. After the death of Socrates, after his so-called execution, he developed a new method. He developed the first university in the world, which is called the Academy. The Academy existed for about 300 years. And this Academy in Greece was the center of learning and knowledge for lots of people from all over the world. This was a period between 320 BC to 380 BC or something like this. Plato was so much in love with of Socrates that he wrote many books like Republica or Democracia or others. And in every book, his main character was Socrates. So all of his books were discussion with Socrates. And he told the world that the method which Socrates has developed was a reasonable method of inquiry. For instance, he said there is a difference between discussion, debate, and dialect. Discussion are casual. We meet each other, we discuss, we have our own opinion, you have your own opinion, we are not there except that we just casually discuss. The debate is very different. The debate is that you are here and I'm here. You wish to win the debate by every ways and means. You have an opinion. You want to make sure that you win the debate. And I try my best to win the debate also. But sometimes winning the debate is a losing. Because sometimes we insist on the wrong thing and we win the debate. Right? Because we are so persuasive, we have a strong argument, we do whatever to win the debate. He said the best method of moving towards the reality is Socrates' dialect. And he named that on the name of his teacher, Socrates. Later students, Aristotle was in academy for 20 years. And he learned a lot from Plato, but he diverted from Plato. He decided to leave academy and developed another academy, another institution which is called Lyceum. And his method was very different. He said only discussion, opinion, reasoning is not enough. There is also another way of inquiry, that is empiricism or observation. So he decided to go to an island, and then he used to walk around. He used to walk around between the villages, vegetations, flowers, and plants. He used to go to the beach and used to see crocodiles or octopus and others. And he said that along with opinion argumentation and thinking abstractly, there is also a possibility of testing them by using empirical method, observation. He was an ancient scientist. He never did any experiment, but he explained in his own wisdom that plants grow in whatever way, animals have certain kind of attraction, and that cosmology, that these different planets move around Earth. There's the Earth centered, and the speed of Mercury is more than the speed of Jupiter. He just was in observation. So Aristotle was a student of Plato, wrote many, many books, and considered, both of them are considered as the greatest philosopher of all time. I'll tell you how science was born from philosophy, and it was well before Socrates. Thales of Miletus, which was close to Izmir in Turkey, he formed a school called Milesian School. And Thales was an amazing philosopher. For instance, he went to Egypt. And he waited. He knew about his height, right? So he waited in the sun when his shadow was exactly of his height. Okay, so it was like, for example, it was like 6 feet. And when his shadow was 6 feet, and exactly at that time tomorrow, he measured the shadow of the pyramid for the first time to the precision of a 1 foot. He was able to measure the height of pyramid. Think of it. He believed that the world is on the water, right? The world is resting on the water. Before that, there was a misconception such as earthquake happened when God and goddesses are angry and upset. You know, we also had this theory that Earth is on the horn of a big ox, and when ox move, then Earth move also. And he said, I don't really know whether this is correct, because when I go to the boat and I'm on the water, and then there is wave, then boat move like this. So if Earth shake, it means underneath the water shakes. So he created a physical reality of a myth. I know it's not correct. We know that this is not correct. But the fact is that he was, for the first time, based on observation, created a theory, right? As we do, as you do, all the time. We are creating theories. And then, of course, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Pythagoras, somewhere here. Confucius was from China, and then Marcus Aurelius, and then Hegel, Kant, these are so-called modern era philosopher, pre-modern and post-modern philosophers of all time. Muslims have contributed immensely in the genesis of philosophy. They translated most of the work of Aristotle and Plato in Arabic, and they developed on the basis of that their new theories. First, Ibn Khaldun, Ibn Rushd, Ibn Sina, Al-Farabi. They were among the greatest philosophers of their time because they built on what Greek philosophy was. And reason why Greek philosophy is more popular than Chinese philosophy or Indian philosophy, very simple reason. Because Alexander the Great has conquered the entire known world at that time. He came until Multan. And he conquered the entire Egypt. He was the first non-Egyptian pharaoh, right? And the entire Syria, Iran, and everything. And for hundreds of years, there was a Greek rule on it. And remember, history, culture, and philosophy of only the victors, people who win and rule, survive. Victorious people, victor, they are the one who write history. Always remember. And this is the reason why Greek philosophy is much popular than Indian philosophy or Arabic philosophy, or Egyptian philosophy, and Chinese philosophy, because they ruled the world for a quite long time. So this is a long line of many, many philosophers, and each one of them has built their philosophy on the basis of others. You cannot discreetly differentiate. And there was a famous saying that even a dwarf man on the shoulder of a giant can see even farther than a giant, because he is in the shoulder. So they wanted to ride on the shoulders of their earlier philosophers so they can see even farther. Okay? So this is the genesis of, and somewhere in between, I'm telling you how philosophy gave birth to science. You're seeing by yourself that there is a divergence somewhere from a simple philosophical method which based on absolutely not doing any experiment, just reasoning, argumentation, critical thinking, and refining these ideas by further discussion. Some of these philosophers said, in our search of truth, we can also use empirical method, observation and experimentation. And that is the birth of the science. So science is not discretely different. It is one of the branches of philosophy for some people. As think of it. Socrates said, I cannot teach anybody. He was not interested in anything. I can only make them think. By asking questions, I can make you think. Just by asking question. And every time I ask you a question, your thinking is more refined, more deeper, more profound. Every time you can experiment with each other. I can ask you every time I said why, you will bring another argument. Then I say why, then you bring another argument. Every time you respond to me, your level of thinking is increasing. You're going to a next level of intellect. And this was his method. This is exactly science does also. Every time you bring a theory, somebody do a research. They search again, they refine that, but in a very different manner. So, and Plato, reality is created by the mind. We can change our reality by changing our mind. So there is no absolute reality. Reality is in our mind. Whatever we conceive as a reality may not be a reality, right? And he had a very interesting philosophy. His philosophical method was that somewhere in between heaven and earth, there is an absolutely perfect form of everything. Absolute beauty, absolute love, absolute system, absolute moral values, everything is called forms. This is called Plato forms. And then underneath on this earth, we have imperfect form. We don't have absolute beauty. We don't have absolute moral. We don't have absolute ethics. We don't have absolute way of governing. We don't have an absolute way of dealing with each other. We don't have absolute value of social structure. And therefore, we need to go and get closer and closer to the perfect form. This was his way of thinking. His life struggle was to go closer to the perfect. Over there, somewhere between heaven and earth, he has this reality of his own. And you can build your own reality. Aristotle was a very logical thinker. Of course, they were not illogical anyway. I'm not saying this. Let me say that all of them have tremendously contributed. These were the greatest thinkers ever. It is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it. Do you do that? You don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't accept any thought. Either we accept it or we reject it. We have nothing in between. And he said, educated person is the only, he can be worth calling an educated and enlightened person if he can entertain a thought. Your idea in my brain without accepting or rejecting. Neutral. We don't do that. We take an extreme opinion. Either we reject it or we accept it. Right? Think of it. The world would have been a much better place if we do that. Because accepting means we become part of a clan. a larger people or people who believe on fiction or story or true or whatever, right? By rejecting it, we become enemy. Can it be somewhere in between? And that is his way of understanding the philosophical. And then someone says, philosophy is the balm of the world of life. You know, we live in a world where we have pain, we suffer. Have you ever thought why we suffer? Why do we suffer? Right? Why do we suffer? And they said life is about suffering. We have different type of sufferings. But we can have some kind of a relief by reflective, critically contemplating, discussing one's own belief, values, and experience to gain deeper insight. Have you, in the recent past several weeks, spent some time with yourself? No. We don't spend time with ourselves. We don't think. We're just running, right? We are busy in doing things, and we are losing the most important essence of life, of spending time with yourself. Have you ever thought of sitting somewhere and just thinking? We don't think, right? Philosophers said that for the sufferings of life, we need to critically contemplate, discuss, think, and have this deeper thinking. Reason, employing logic, a system of reasoning. We should be able to understand why it is happening. Why it is happening. Can it be a different way of doing things? Can what people say is a critical argument rather than relying on emotional biases. Most of our opinions are biased or emotional. We don't like someone because we don't like him or her, right? Or bias, I don't like that nationality or that people and all that. These are biases. They're not true belief. They increase sufferings. They increase our sufferings because we don't think critically. We rely on the way of thinking, which is not critical way of thinking. And then responsive. I should be able to listen to you responsibly. I should be able to listen to you, your argument by openness of mind. My window of mind is open when you argue with me. We often close our minds before thinking, before listening. And that is why responsive for us, reevaluating. And after listening to you, if it makes some sense to me, I should be able to reevaluate my ideas, my opinions, my thinking, my truth, my own patent bare truth. Is new evidence, reflections, and these are the 4 R's of philosophy. Okay. Okay, before we indulge into further discussion, any question you want to discuss? Yes, sir.
About the timeline. What you talk about time?
I don't.
Let me tell me anyone here in this period. I will see how we can judge this or not. Do you know anyone about 2000 and 2026? We can judge his philosophy person.
And you have 5 minutes to stretch yourself. Okay. And finally, when you figure out that. while I engage with. Yes, sir. What is your question?
My question about the final the slide. You talk about to us many persons there is a philosophy in this time. When we talk about night, the people how it is people now. Tell me anyone. I will watching it all see videos how we can judge the Nobel Prize. Anyone
Your question help me to understand and help me to think deeply. If you have never asked me this question, I would have never thought what you asked. Make me think. I say Yuval Noah Harari is an intellectual philosopher. I say Kariko Yogumicha is a philosopher of very high intellect. I consider Farid Zakaria is a philosopher of political philosophy. There are many, but I don't claim to know everyone. But I don't really know. Another question. Sure.
Rakib, can you ask the Rakib, can you ask the online questions, please?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So can I ask to the questions from participants that
Yes,
there has been?
Wait for a while.
Okay, just a minute. There is one on site.
I'm not really sure science answer our questions. I mean, broadly, I would say philosophy is why and science is about how. Broadly, right? Science, philosophy is a question, why, and science trying to respond to how. But having said that, there are many domains in which science cannot do anything. Science's existence of God, right? What happened after we die? Right? What is the reality of the world? Do we really exist? What is truth? These are not science domains. They are not domain of science. Science can only study physical world, natural world, which you can touch and feel, which you can see with absolute certainty. Nothing like absolute certainty.
They most now believe in scientism, like the science the only source of human. This is most of our knowledge.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very good question. Made me think. And this is the reason why we are learning. Anything which makes us think. Francis, in my understanding, limited understanding, I don't think science is the answer of everything. For instance, my father used to take me out when I was young, and he used to ask me a question. Do you see these stars? I say yes. And he used to say many of them doesn't exist. They don't exist. And I was wondering, why they don't exist. I see them, right? And then second day he used to take me again, and he used to say, there are many stars which you don't see, but they still exist. Some of them are much larger than Earth. The fact is, when cosmology was developed, everything was seen, was existing. Everything was not visible, was not existing. The fact is that now we know that there are many stars who died long time ago, but the last ray of their light is still coming. And we see something which doesn't exist. And there are many stars formed, but their first ray has not reached to the earth. So we don't see things which exist. Right? So science is imperfect. For instance, there was a basic fundamental belief for thousands of years, even the Greek time, that everything is made of one indivisible, which you cannot divide, atom. Now we know it's not correct. We know that atom has many, many subatomic particles. Even those subatomic particles have sub-subatomic particles, right? Science, only believe on science that we often have to change our beliefs. Remember? So this is the subject of epistemology in philosophy. What we know is really a knowledge. Is this a true knowledge? Yes.
Okay, Rakib, you can go ahead with your questions.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the opportunity, sir. We have received several questions from the participants. The first, the Mr. Itisham ul Haq, he asks to you that how should one develop a philosophical approach to address or solve scientific questions or problem? This is his first questions. Although he has more two questions, that
No,
is
but
in.
let me respond to his question. You see, this is exactly what this short mini course is about. We do science all the time. How many of us know what is hypothesis? We don't even know how to develop hypotheses. We jump in the laboratory and start working on something for which we have absolutely no idea. So philosophy helps us to develop a hypothesis and to test that hypothesis by using experimentation. Philosophy can also help us to interpret the results. We often do many, many errors in interpretation of results. Either we overinterpret or underinterpret, interpret, or simplify, oversimplification. Philosophy can help us in the interpretation of results. And philosophy, top-down, can help us to see what methods are we using are really the real methods. And finally, philosophy can help us to understand what we have discovered. Science, remember, science has no values. It doesn't mean value in per se. Science has no defined ethics or values. It's neutral. Science is value neutral. Atom, when splitted, eventually led to the death of millions of people. What is the ethics of it? Where do we use discoveries of science? AI, is AI helping people to die and killed, identify and shoot it down? Genetic engineering. Where do we really take that genetic engineering? How do we use it? What are the ethical, moral reasons of using certain scientific discoveries? So science helps in a many ways. Philosophy helps science in many ways, and we'll discuss this more profoundly, inshallah. Yes, Rakib.
Thank you, sir. We have more questions. So another participant asks, his name is Ahmed Ilumuna. He asks to you that in today's society, can we consider politics, values, and ideology the new philosophies that oriented science? In this point, allow me to ask those questions. Number one, is science truly objective or influenced by the culture and power? And the second thing is, how do found politics or ideology shape research outcome? And the final question is, can values ever been completely excluded from science?
Yeah, this is a very profound question. Thank you very much. And let me tell you that philosophy helps us from a fundamental foundational issue. Scientists start from a bias. from a bias. This plant is anti-inflammatory, and they find something anti-inflammatory, right? This bacteria can survive in certain nutrients. They found something which is close to their biases. Philosophy can help us to develop hypothesis which is free of bias. Okay, this is very fundamentally important because bias in science, like bias in any discipline, is extremely dangerous. That is the foundational error that make the whole exercise useless. Now, second question is about politics, right? What was that? Ricky, what was the second question?
Sir, second question was that how do finding politics or ideology shape research outcome?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. This is biases also. You know, if we are looking, if you don't, for instance, I give you the example, please do understand that this is for the sake of example. It doesn't test my belief. You know, I come with a disclaimer. If we believe that eating pork is not good for health, we will find something in pork which is not good for health, right? We believe that alcohol is dangerous for health, we'll find something in experimental model that alcohol is really bad for health. So our ideological biases can influence the result, and where philosophy can help us to at least partly free our science from ideological biases. Okay, yes, please.
And the third question is that, sir, can values ever be completely excluded from science?
I mean, to be honest, scientists have their own values. Scientists discover with absolute honesty something for the benefit of the people. But the problem is that the use is not in their hand. It's governed by the society, it's governed by the system. And therefore, I would say partly science remain valueless, you know, value neutral, because even if they have certain values, it's not of use anything like this, because once you discover something and you throw it into the publication, who will use it for what? This is not in your hand. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, and another question is from Ahmed Madani. He asks to you how to connect science with the philosophy.
That is what we will respond, inshallah. We will try to discuss. My limited understanding and discussion with you will try to understand. Philosophy and science are not two discrete subjects, though they have different methodology, goals, and approaches. But science is the baby of philosophy. It's called natural philosophy. Philosophy gave birth to science. And therefore, philosophy remains extremely important. Wherever you do science without any philosophical inquiry, then you do a poor science.
Okay.
Because we don't really do critical thinking.
Yes. And sir, another question is Kanta Bhanendro. She asks to you, what are the limitation and criticism of the 4 hours work?
I mean, philosophy, 4 hours, but there may be other hours also. I don't know. There may be other methods too. But primarily, curiosity and critical thinking, and then to argument and communicate is what philosophy is. You have curiosity about the world. You have curiosity about stars, and you have curiosity about death, and curiosity about existence of a super being. You have curiosity about our moral values, and then you think about it in a systemic way. Remember that we do reasoning all the time, but logic provides us the system through which we think efficiently in a better way. And when we reason, then we develop a better understanding of what exists. And then you argument, you discuss. Argument doesn't mean that you fight with someone. You do Socrates dialogue. You communicate. You use these sophisticated skills which human has, only human has, of communicating and learning. And that is these are the philosophical method, and they're cyclical iteration. There are so many iterations. You discuss, you rethink, then you argument again, circulated dialogue. You refine your thought, you refine your of your opinion or whatever, and then so is iteration. And through this method, philosophers try to go closer to the truth. They never claim that they would ever achieve truth. And they are, according to Plato, they go to closer to the perfect forms of everything.
Okay, sir. Thank you for this answering these questions. So we have more questions from Same Abujit, Egypt. He asks to you, what is the difference between mind and matter?
Okay, I don't know, to be honest, because in my understanding, matter, these are existential issues. What we see as a physical matter still have a question on its own merit. Does it really exist? Or we're just hallucinating? We see everything in dreams. It looks super real. Right? Are we in dream? For 60, 70, 80 years, are we dreaming about everything? Right? So there is a quick question mark which philosophers are trying to answer, and scientists in their own way. Of mind, of course, is an instrument through which you do reasoning, but mind can be really dangerous if you don't. It can be fallacy. There is a reasoning and there is a fallacy. Your mind can take you to a different path. You can have an absolutely irrational and wrong reasoning. So mind is a tool through which you can reason nicely or reason wrongly.
Thank you, sir, for answering those questions. We have more questions. Muhaddis, he asked to you two questions. Number one is, if two competing scientific theories explain the same phenomenon equally well, how should scientists choose between them? And the second thing is philosophy of science itself scientific?
No. So let me respond to the last question first. Science and philosophy of science are very different. Science is what we do in our laboratories, observation, hypothesis. And philosophy of science is actually looking from top to bottom, looking into what are our scientific methods, are they credible, is hypothesis drawn in the right way, interpretation is done nicely, whether the conclusion drawn make any sense. So philosophy of science is different from science. The first question was about what? Two competing theories. You see, there are many, many occasions where we have seen competing theories, and that there is somewhere in between. In the beginning of the next discussion, we will discuss about theory of falsification. Science, in a true sense, not to prove. Science can only be disproved. If you have some theory, and if you have some results, and if you have some opinion, scientific opinion, then the authenticity of that opinion will depend upon falsification. You should be able to falsify that. You don't work to prove it, because if you try to prove it, you will always find a proof. There is a problem in science. You know, if you try to find a proof that if you find that it is anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, anti-something, anti-something, okay, you will find a proof. According to Karl Popper, the science is only can be called science if you can falsify, you say it is not inflammatory. And when you're unable to falsify, there is a science. Understand, this scientific method is, which is called science, is different. For instance, pseudoscience, you know, science, you can falsify and you say, okay, it cannot be falsified. I'm unable to disprove this. Therefore, it is correct. And instead of it, if you say, I keep proving it, because you have a bias, you want to prove it. And you got it proved. There is a reason that world literature is full of wrong science. What was the other question?
Sir, last more questions from Professor Dr. Shamsun Nahar. She is from Bangladesh. She asks to you that I have a question. How philosophy and profanitism is connected?
Can you repeat, Rakib?
Yes, sir.
Shams was my student, and her PhD number was like 12, 13, 14 or something like that. Yes.
So
What is your number? Okay. Sham. Sorry. Okay. So can you repeat?
She was asked to you that how philosophy and diviner is connected.
Okay. So you know, philosophy and religion are so two discrete things. Wherever people try to prove religion, either by St. Augustine or some other people, they have gone into a different direction and they got themselves confused, right? For instance, you know, the theory of metaphysics was used to prove Trinity. Holy Ghost, Son and Father. And so philosophical methods were used to prove religion. And we do that also in our religion as well. Better we should not do that. Many of those people become atheist at the last stage of their life. So we should keep religion and philosophy different. Religion are belief. You don't question them. You believe them as they are. Right? If you try to bring philosophy in religion, then it becomes extremely confusing. You know, when some very intellectual people have found solutions as well, but better we keep them separately. This is my understanding.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have more questions, but
I think
shall we
there are
go
some
ahead?
questions. No, I think we can do that later. If we can have maybe
Yes, sir.
more time. Let me just let me take some questions from the audience here. I hope I'm not really boring you. No, sir.
Thank you very much for making this lecture and this gathering. It is bringing us to the core of knowledge and science. And I see some pictures online sometimes. People come to the university very brilliant. By the time they are out of the university, they are less brilliant than they were. And it brings a philosophical question that their curiosity have diminished when they were seeking for knowledge, and now that they assume that they have knowledge. So bringing back philosophy into science, I think is a valuable effort that will enable the scientists to remain humble, to continue to seek endlessly. because the question I ask myself, will Socrates consider himself a philosopher? And I think the answer is no. But here are we with the degree of philosophy and the pride that comes with it. So what is your opinion on this, sir?
I totally agree with you that apparently the core role, the key function of education institution, whether they're primary or secondary or tertiary, is to kill the curiosity. Yeah. Because teacher comes with dogmatic knowledge. What they teach, they believe that on that as an absolute truth. And there is no room for questioning and argumentation. As a result of it, a born child who is a born philosopher, he or she asks you thousands of questions. We'll make sure that they kill their curiosity systematically. And by the time they graduate from universities, they're less curious, they're less intellectually bright. They have a degree but less knowledge, and more so, the capacity to understand and appreciate a new knowledge and new argumentation. I agree with you. Yes, sir.
So, reasoning in one idea thought. Now, I don't really introspect my ideas till when I do, I believe that most of basics of my ideas are being thought. I haven't really thought about it. So I often get very uncomfortable when someone really challenges my basis of my ideas because I'm under that fear that my basis of ideas might collapse. So I'm oftentimes very comfortable under the blanket of memory. Now, philosophers do that. They introspect their ideas. They sort of introspect the basics of their beliefs. But scientists don't often do that. Although there isn't really anything fundamental in the definition of science or scientific activity. But if scientists really don't do that, I can't help but why is that?
Yeah, I think it is primarily number one, that philosophers come with an open mind. They come with a clear understanding that what they have reasoned and postulated and develop an idea can be wrong idea, can be far from truth. And they are so much open to Socrates' dialect, understanding the other people's opinion without fighting it, right? Without becoming defensive. You don't fight in plains or on ground or wherever. You just simply understand that the ultimate aim of your discourse is to learn more. That is the objective. Science, on the other hand, is fundamentally based on inductive reasoning. That you have three data sets. Based on that, you develop a theory for the whole world. Inductive reasoning. You induce and then you believe that these three plants or these three chemicals which you have developed, the quinazolidine system or indole alkaloid or something like this, would always be anti-cancer. So the fundamental problem with science is that it's inductive. You induct your reasoning based on a very simple, small data set. And then you generalize it to the whole world, which can be wrong, because you find exceptions. And this is the reason that science is always revising. And this is the reason why you need philosophy. You need a philosophical check on your understanding and theory. Remember, there is one thing called paradigm. Everyone, many scientists in this era found something interesting in atoms or bacteria or viruses or whatever. They develop based on that. It's called a theory or a paradigm. Then with time, people start discovering exceptions, outliers. And then at some point of time, that body of exceptions becomes so much that theory crumbled and go into the ground. And then you need to start all over again to develop a new paradigm, a new theory. We have seen that many examples of such things. Okay. I hope I respond to your question.
When you started almost all of the philosophers, they used to travel from one place to other for knowledge seeking and all. So since you travel a lot also, have been traveling almost to
All my life.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. So is there any connection between traveling and then curiosity and thinking?
To be honest, I don't know the connection. Now, one can be at the same place forever and can still be a very good philosopher, very good thinker. It depends on how do you approach a problem. How do you approach a problem and how do you interact with the other intellectuals of your time? Travel increase your observational knowledge, not necessarily in intellectual knowledge. And there is a difference. So, if I can convert that observation into an intellect and a better version of knowledge, then I can be a better thinker, not a philosopher, but a better. Okay, shall we proceed? Yes.
It's a matter of fact that pros and cons like every scientific discovery. I mean, if it has some uses and significant bad effects on legal as well. So, in this regard, we have ethical policies from the nuclear to the AI use. But don't you think that these ethical policies are enough to protect the lethal effects of humanity, lethal effects of science to the humanity? But even so, what would be the more in your opinion?
A very important question by Dr. Maria. Dr. Maria is my friend also. What was your number?
Well, you should ask to Dr. Zahi.
Okay. She has done her PhD with me at Dr.
It has to be number one. In your list too.
That is okay. So her question is whether the existing value system is good enough to direct the scientific discoveries towards human welfare. The answer is obviously no. It's not happening. Science, the results of science being used for destruction, disinformation, dismay, and you just name it. For instance, I give you the information. When I was growing up, and no, not growing up, but when I started learning about internet and all that was in the 80s. I was in the US. I thought something very different. I thought that this rapidity of communication between billions of people will bring us together, will become a global village. This tool will make us better human beings, but because we'll be able to communicate, and communication is always helpful. On the contrary, something else happened. The tools of information are now used for misinformation. The world is more divided today than ever been in the world. Information are converted into misinformation and used for hate and division. Same with all branches of science. So I would say what actually happened in my limited understanding is scientific discoveries are often fast-paced, and moral values which require them to be in the right direction are slower in growth and genesis.
You just mentioned that. So my question is, why we shouldn't question belief if we have to pay 5 times a week? Why this figure is not 6, 7? So we have to think, we must do some research, we have to conduct some experiments that is done. So that should be that 3 times religion and philosophy should be part of an equator drawing. They are interconnected. So what's your thought?
The way you are thinking, there are many scholars have thought in the same manner. Many Christian scholars who were philosophers also, and there's a whole lineage of philosophers who tried to validate Christian theology on the basis of philosophy. Same thing happened in other religions as well, including Islam. They try to, for instance, I give you a very trivial example of fasting. The science, we try to prove that fasting is good for our health, maybe philosophical meditation and others also. But what I'm trying to say that, they often depend on a different method. Belief is revelation. Belief comes from God to us. Everything is written, either in Bible or Torah or Quran. Therefore, they are divine words. How can you question them? What I'm saying. So religion is kept away from philosophy, and to some extent science also. People do really a lot of scientific studies on religious practices too. But you see, for instance, if some scientific theory disprove the existence of something, what would you do? Right? And I would not really take that as a valid, because in my understanding, science is still wrong. It changes, It's still evolving. And every scientific outcome is subject to question, right? Subject to testing. This is what, okay, question.
Do you think that science and religion has two different ways, cannot intersect each other?
No, they intersect. I'll show you epistemology, you bring them together also. But you don't test one on the basis of the other. This is what I. Yes.
Thank you very much. Christian is so philosophical that one cannot easily take one's mind off it if one wants to listen critically. And I think philosophy has the capacity to continuously evolve. And it creates a very rapid evolution that it can easily crumble a society, an idea, it will change it. And it remains as dangerous as it was in the time of Socrates, that a fixed society or knowledge in the face of philosophy is greatly challenged. This is my thoughts.
Absolutely. And that is what, have you ever thought that none of you has ever learned philosophy? It's by design, not by default. Nowhere in our Eastern cultures we learn philosophy. We're not taught philosophy because we become very dangerous. We start asking questions about moral values, governance, this morality, the system, and all that. By design, philosophy is not taught. Okay? Bottom line, this is my understanding, and this may be wrong, right? Maybe not enough teacher or whatever. Okay, let's move forward.
Here, this human is from side, and is it possible that living things is created from non-knowledge?
Okay, so how would you have made it? Scientifically, if you try to, let's say, I have like 70% of water, hydrogen, oxygen, maybe like 10% of carbon, some nitrogen, some oxygen. and I mix them together in a buttock, in a pot of water, something like that. And you think that something like human would come out of it, right? So scientifically, you don't do that, but we, with a profound knowledge, understanding, it's very simple. All of us are made of stardust. You know, all the stars have same composition, more or less. We are made from the same. We are made from the same element, right? So, if you want to prove it or disprove it, is up to you. But this is the religious ideas which you often keep yourself to your own beliefs. Okay, shall we move forward? Rakib, yeah, please.
Sir, I would like to ask two questions under the branch of topics in philosophy. That would be metaphysics. So I have two questions. If you give me those question answers, sir, I would be very grateful to you, sir.
Well, we haven't started metaphysics yet. But anyway,
Okay.
you can ask questions.
That is, if reality is fundamentally composed of process rather than the substance, how does that change our understanding of identity and change over time? This is my first question. And the second question is, can abstract entitles like number or moral values be said to exist independently of human minds?
You need to repeat the same second question.
Shall I need to repeat it again, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. My first question is that if reality is fundamentally composed of process rather than substance, how does that change our understanding of identity and change over time? This is my first question. And the second question is...
let me respond to you.
Yes, sir.
You see, what is reality? We don't know what is reality. Philosophers have been wondering about this since thousands of years. That what is reality? We don't really know what is reality. Your reality can be different from my reality, right? So fundamentally, realities is more of a subjective term than an objective term, right?
Yes, sir.
Metaphysics is about anything which is not physical, before and after, above the physical world. For instance, these enduring questions of morality, beauty, ethics, governance, the super being, God, religion, these are metaphysical questions. These are above physical natural objects. So metaphysics is just above that, right? And we will discuss that more. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And
okay.
Another question is that can abstract entitles like numbers or moral values be said exist independently of human minds?
Abstract.
Yes, abstract. Can abstract entitles like numbers or moral values be said to be exist independently of human minds?
We will read about realism and abstractism
Okay.
in coming lectures, so we will discuss that.
Inshallah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so what are the key tools of in the last 5 minutes? What are the key tools, key topic, and key branches of philosophy? There are many. People don't agree on how many of these branches are. But for instance, philosophers have been discussing metaphysical topics, you know. Scientists do more physical topics, natural and physical objects. The philosophers have been using logical tools to develop an understanding and reason. We always reason, you know. For instance, you reason that, you know, the dark cloud and there may be a rain, so it's better to take an umbrella. This is no reasonable thinking. This is reasons which you do every day. Every day you do reasons, and you reason in everything. But there is a system of reasoning which is called logic. There is a separate subject, epistemology. Your knowledge is subject to test. What do you think you have a knowledge is really a real knowledge? Or it's just opinion or a belief or a popular, popular misconception. The knowledge is tested by epistemology. What is knowledge and how knowledge is considered to be a true knowledge is epistemology. Because remember that everything is based on knowledge. You can claim something to be a knowledge, but it can be wrong. It can just be your belief. You can say anything, we have a politician number X is the most wonderful person, and I ask you what make you think that he is the most wonderful person on the face of the earth, and you said, I believe it. Or everybody says that. So it is a testable. Your knowledge has to be tested. It has to fulfill certain criteria before it is considered as a true knowledge. Right? And similarly, ethics. Ethics are extremely important. What are the moral values? What are the
His knowledge should be objective rather than subjective.
we will discuss this in the next slide. Ethics. What is ethics? For instance, a person is critically ill. There is no hope of that person to survive. He's in a super suffering. Is this ethical to give him a peaceful death by giving what's called that one? Right? Is this ethical? Right? Or is this ethical to have slaves? Can these are profound questions of that time also. Can one gender of humanity is without a soul? Right. These are ethical questions. Who has the right to be governed? What virtues that person should have? What kind of ethical dimension that person should have? Political philosophy. What is the best way of governing a society? Is this a king, son of a king, or dynasty, or democratic values, or a system of scholars sitting together to select the best person? Or can it be a decentralized political system? This is a philosophical question. It is not scientific question, remember? There's nothing to do with science. If anything is true, anything has to do with science is logic in epistemology. No other thing has anything to do with science. Because scientists should have a logical way of thinking, and scientists should be able to differentiate between true knowledge and false knowledge, interpretation. And then aesthetics. What is beauty? What is beauty? Our criteria of beauty can be very different from the people on the other side of the planet. Right? And you see it every day. What do we think as a beautiful, the other people don't really find it very attractive. So what is the real beauty? What is the real beauty? So they are questions. And how do you see a beauty in someone? Is this in your eye or in the subject? Right? I see Mohsin as a beautiful person, Is this that Mohsin is beautiful or the way I'm thinking? Yeah. So what is beauty? Is very subjective. You know, your beauty, explanation of beauty can be very different from my explanation. So the nature of the world and existence of godliness all started from a fundamental basic question that philosophers were sick and tired of the God fighting with other gods every day, right? Greek mythology, have you Homer, Odyssey, and all these gods fighting with other gods, right? So Zeus is fighting with Hades, who's his brother. One represent the virtue, the other represent evil, right? Uh, Aphrodite fighting with someone else. They were just sick and tired of this fighting between the gods. So they said, are they really God? Because if they have the attribute of a human being, they are jealous, they can kill, they can have ill thinking about others, they can't be God. Right? So these fundamental questions started from challenging the paradigm of God and goddesses which existed in Greek mythology. And apart from that, there are many, many questions which are metaphysical in their nature. What is the right way of thinking and building argument? You know, you can have an absolutely wrong way of thinking, and you can have right way of thinking, right? Logic define what can be the closest system of right way of thinking. Then how do we know what we think we know? The knowledge we have, is this a real knowledge? Or just a belief, or opinion, or superstition? Right? Mr. Molly, how do we go from wrong to right ethics? What is the best form of governance, political philosophy? What is beauty? Thank you very much. Sorry, I kept boring you. Okay. Thank you very much, Rocky. Thank you very much, all online participants. It was just a discussion. I never claimed to be a philosopher. I don't even know what philosophy is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Let's gather quickly outside for the local breakfast.
بعدين